Thank you for those of you that are here. We're saving the best panel for last. This is the last one of Sensors Converge, and we appreciate the time and your participation. I will have time at the end for questions so that there's an interaction and not just a discussion. I'm Michael Kuptz. I'm part of the Edge AI Foundation. I've been part of it for the last year and a half, and you can see us over in the pavilion or follow us on edgeaifoundation.org. So with that, I'd like to turn to my esteemed colleagues, but they're also members of the foundation, and I want to thank you all for your time and participation. So we'll start with you. Steve, a little bit about you and BrainChip.
Hello, Mike. Thank you so much for having us on here with the Edge AI Foundation. I think it was wonderful to see the interest in Edge AI at Sensors here. I've been in the semiconductor business for probably 3 decades, too long. I spent a good part of my career at Qualcomm integrating sensors and the sensor hub in the smartphone, and a lot of that work was done with digital signal processing. And in my new role here at BrainChip, I'm really converting a lot of those designs that use DSP to AI ML for processing today. At BrainChip, we've been in the neuromorphic computing market for over 10 years. And BrainChip was really formed by a pair. One brought the brains, the other brought the chips. And the two worked together to take, a modeling of the computation of the brain into the chip format. So we've digitized that and made that design available for chip companies to integrate as intellectual property. But we also offer a range of chips so that you can, say, accelerate your Raspberry Pi to do neuromorphic computing at the edge.
Kurt, you're up.
Thank you, Michael. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me to be on this panel. I'm really honored to be in such a great group of people here. I'm sure we have some interesting things, or I'll be learning some interesting things from them. So a little about myself. My name is Kurt Busch. I'm co-founder and CEO of Syntiant. I've been in this industry now for 35 years. I've done most things from design engineer to CEO of a public company. I like to say that semiconductors is an old man's game. You need to dot your I's and cross your T's, or you waste actually a lot of money. A little bit about Syntiant is, we started off to bring AI from the cloud to the edge. We supply processors as well as software. Today, our devices are deployed in things as small as hearing aids to as large as automobiles. We have a little over 100 million devices in the field today using Syntiant technology. And then on the sensor side, which, we're at Sensors Converge, so we last year we acquired the consumer MEMS microphone business from Knowles Corporation. This is one of the leaders, actually the inventors of MEMS microphones. So there's a very good chance that the cell phone that you have in your hand right now has a Syntiant sensor in it. And our belief is that all of these sensors will be connected to an AI engine somewhere, so it might as well be one from us. Thank you.
Shreyas?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And it's great to be on the panel here. And like Kurt said, I'm here to learn a bit more about all the interesting things that are happening in Edge AI. So I've been also in the semiconductor industry for over 2 decades. I started my career designing CPUs at a company called ARM in Cambridge, and since then I've been part of ARM for a couple of years. Was part of another startup which did image signal processing and display technology, which was again acquired by ARM. So I couldn't go away from ARM very easily. But since then, spent a couple of years in a company called Imagination in the UK. And I joined Innatera about 8 months ago to lead the commercial operations. So Innatera is a semiconductor microcontroller company. We use neuromorphics as the key AI ingredient in our chips. And our mission is to make sensors intelligent. We connect to sensors. We have a complete solution using neuromorphic and some of the other technologies out there, things like RISC-V CPU as well. And we connect to sensors and get insights and information out of these sensors. And our mission is to make 1 billion sensors intelligent by the end of this decade.
JP?
Thank you very much, Mike, for calling us, and I'm glad to be here as part of this panel. and glad to be here. First time for me in the Sensor Converge. Personally, I have been designing chips since 1992. I like to call myself an engineer rather than companies I worked for, Sun Microsystem, couple of successful startups, and then started working on AI even before it became popular in 2010. Ambient Scientific started out of a personal tragedy in my family, but it's taken a form of a big ambition. We in Ambient Scientific are designing fully programmable instruction-based AI engines, which are pretty much similar to GPU. But we use this concept, which is hybrid of analog in-memory computing and some digital transformation to make it what we call DGAN. This is our own name, digital analog DGAN. Makes it very efficient. With this, we have a complete roadmap of products where we can multiply this course many times to build a small or very large chips. And right now we have customers pretty much for 3 generations of our chips. First one goes into on-device AI computing, very energy efficient. In that matter, we are all competitors, but here we are collaborating to talk more generic topics. And I'll be glad to answer questions as it goes.
Thank you. All right, Scott, bring it home.
Thanks, Michael. I'm Scott Smyser, VP of Sales and Marketing for EMAS. I've got about 25 plus years in the semiconductor industry, a lot of it on the MEMS and sensor side, and now on the edge AI SoC side. So, trying to enable sensors to do, a lot more processing on device. EMAS, we're doing edge AI SoCs. Our claim to fame is that we can be very efficient at ultra low power. So if you want to do a lot of AI processing on device, you're battery powered. That's really where we shine, is enabling you to do that. So good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's get into reality. And since we're connecting AI to the real world, the question I would like to hear from you about is really the challenges in going from research or prototype to a real deployment, a commercial deployment at the edge. So I'll go left to right. We'll start with Steve.
Well, that's probably the biggest challenge in the market, is going from a prototype to full-scale deployments. And part of it is the prototype really demonstrates that your machine learning model is working and you're getting the accuracy or the performance, but that's just really the tip of the iceberg, because then you have to go into like a full-scale development program where you're looking at the economies of the cost structure of the product, the power dissipation of the product, and also the performance of the model over a wide range of input data. Because normally you'll train a model with a limited data set, and then when you go to full-scale deployment, you'll find the weaknesses in that model. And then there's a whole phase of updating that model to improve it for that full-scale deployment. And then finally, for the commercialization, it's the whole stack integration, because a lot of companies that have products don't have experience in AI. And when you go to edge AI, you have all the complexities of the integration, and then they have to figure out the life cycle of the model, because the model is not a static thing. Say, for example, you have a product that works in a grocery store and you train it on all the packaging in the grocery store. Guess what? New products come in all the time, and suddenly you can't recognize some of the packaging and you have to retrain that model. So that ML ops operation, where you're operationally improving your model continuously and then having a methodology to deploy that to many devices, is a bit of a complexity that people don't recognize. Because if you look at most embedded products, you program it, the firmware, and you ship it. And then you might have a software update a year later, but in Edge AI, you might have to continuously update that software.
Thank you. Kurt?
So, we're all talking about Edge AI here, and I think it's often not realized just how hard a problem it really is. we really are fighting against, I'd say, consumer expectations. And when I say consumer, I mean just not people buying consumer goods, but the consumer of the AI itself. And generally, when people are looking at AI solutions, they're used to seeing huge models now, billions of parameters, trillions of parameters working in a data center. And that's the expectation that they have. And then we move to the edge, and you're talking about things with, several orders of magnitude less size. So things that say 1 million parameters as opposed to 1 billion parameters. And people are expecting that same level of cloud performance inside of an edge device. And there's lots of advantages to this, which hopefully we'll get into later, but you have to fight that expectation. So you're really getting the largest amount of performance into the smallest form factor. So it's actually quite hard. And in our experience, this generally boils down to a software problem. Early on, when we first started Syntiant, is I drew a picture that had silicon on one side and money on the other side, and in between was a great big brick wall. And that brick wall was production machine learning models. And if you didn't get over that brick wall, you weren't ever going to get any money. And, now we've got a little over 100 million units out there. And all of those, I would generally say, is because we have seriously invested in production machine learning models that we not only sell on our silicon, we sell on other people's silicon. And that has been the at least our secret weapon, and not that secret, actually, I tell everyone that'll listen, to be able to go from a prototype to something you can actually ship in volume.
Love it. Shreyas.
Yeah, so I think I'll just expand on what Kurt said just now, and it's so important, this software piece and the expectation from the market, that it's been running pretty much unconstrained. Researchers, developers of new AI models have vast amount of compute available on data centers, and they have been developing these complex models that now they want to somehow deploy on these edge devices, and that's a challenge. For us, Innatera, our approach to edge AI is neuromorphic, which is in its own a very very powerful weapon on the edge AI side of things, but it's a very complex engineering challenge, and we have over the past so many years been making sure that our solution is programmable, deployable in actual use cases. And neuromorphic is not just a research topic that happens in universities. It's actually something that can be deployed in end devices. And we have a showcase from Syntiant where a large number of audio use cases now use neuromorphic in end use cases. This is exactly our challenge that we've kind of overcome now with our Pulsar product that we announced at Computex last month, and with our software stack, the Thelamo software SDK. The software piece is critical, and the flexibility that the underlying hardware provides is also critical, because AI is changing at a very, very fast rate. By the time a chip is deployed in actual products in the market, the state of the art in AI has changed. So the challenge and things that we have been working on very hard is how do we make that underlying hardware really programmable and flexible for future use cases. So these are a couple of the things that come to my mind at the moment.
Thank you, Shreyas. GP.
Okay, so I will address this a little bit. The real challenges that we face is actually already told by all three gentlemen here. And that challenge of what the customer is expecting. But I will also try to address this a little bit just in a minute. Why this problem has actually happened. I mean, we see at the end of the day, we are chip companies, we sell chips. And we spend all our time, all our expertise, or we pride ourselves in building great chips, either very efficient, very high performance, or both of them. But the customer expectation, from their point of view, the challenge is that for past 20, 25 years, you see the hardware or in the silicon, most of the innovation has actually happened in the software, to the extent that the chip companies build a complete application and hand it over to customers. So when this edge AI is happening right now, or even AI is happening as right now, the customer expectation is that the chip company will actually hand over the complete application to the customer. But at the end of the day, when you build an application to them, unless you have a complete solution, if you build something that is a model, for example, they don't want to pay for it. At the end of the day, it's your chip that will get evaluated for whether it is better in power or performance or something else. So this mismatch has also happened because of how the industry has been evolving for past 20, 25 years. And now the customers have been are basically forced to go back in history or back in expertise. In our case, we addressed this by building a hardware that could evolve as the solutions evolved or as the demand evolves. That's why, instruction-based programmable, it makes it easier. In the beginning, we were facing a lot of these troubles, but once we explained the customer that, it'll be good to have a solution or an algorithm or a model that you own so that you can differentiate from your own competitor, that has started working. And we see a lot of customers are willing to invest time and money into building those models, or at least they're telling, okay, can you connect us to somebody who can build it for us? We are willing to pay for it. So I think the transition is happening. This expectation gap will slowly close. We are not there yet. Unfortunately, as companies, we started from a very, very, very wrong foot because we are fighting an expectation which is not our expertise.
Understand. All right, Scott.
All right. I think I'll expand on what GP was saying from a hardware chip perspective. I mean, if we look at a challenge of bringing AI from research to the real world, you really have to look at the differences between what you can do in a research lab versus the realities of devices that are out in the real world. In a lab, you've got high-end GPUs, an abundance of power, plenty of memory, and very nice data sets, right? When you get to devices on the edge in the real world, you're faced with constraints, right? You don't have a lot of power, so you got to figure out how to make things happen with, say, 100 microwatts of power for a device. You don't have a lot of memory, or actually you don't want to use a lot of external memory because of the latency, the power, the cost that's associated with that. And finally, there's just latency and reliability of these devices, right? People want them to operate immediately and consistently, and there's real-world noise and environmental conditions. So from a chip perspective, what EMAS has done is really take these constraints into account as we were building our SoC, which is the X dot. First off, we've got 4 megabyte of internal SRAM. So that means we don't have to use external memory and, again, the latency, power, cost that is associated with that. And then the other big thing is doing things very efficiently at low power. So we're operating at sub milliwatt continuous AI inference, continuous operation, which really is key for devices that need to operate on batteries, say a coin cell, and you do so for an extended amount of time. So really, the approach to this challenge from a hardware perspective is taking the constraints into account when you are building your system.
Thank you. So I did the math. There's over 200 years of experience on stage, just based upon your introductions. So I want to elevate it just a bit. What, as you experience Sensors Converge, but in your day-to-day experience, share with us what's the most interesting edge AI application that you've seen. And I'll start with Scott and come back to Steve.
Yeah. So an application that we're excited about that we're involved in is drones. Drones are moving from remote controlled platforms to autonomous systems that can make dynamic real-time decisions. So our chip, the XDOT, is we're putting it through an evaluation program, and what we're achieving is 50 megahertz closed loop flight control. This is sensing, inference, and actuation at sub-milliwatt power consumption. And one of the most compelling results from this is actually we're showing we can extend flight time by 30% just with the power savings. So that's huge for drones, especially commercial drones. And then the other thing you can do, given that now you get that efficiency and that power budget, you're saving power, but you can also use that to add additional features. So precision landing, onboard, on-flight fault detection, these types of things, which perhaps were features that you couldn't have on drones before. So we see drones as actually a very good proving ground for edge AI, given that it's high compute, but also has demands of still low latency and low power. And what we're proving is that we can have autonomous AI without cloud, without big compute, which of course can translate from drones to many other edge type devices.
Thank you. GP.
So we have been, as I said, we have a roadmap of products. The first one we're using for on-device. We have been able to achieve power in sub-100 microwatt range at the complete chip level. So that is enabling a lot of very good applications for us that need to operate on a very small battery, still be able to run AI application. One such application that we should see in a few months out in the market is a personal safety device, wherein we are able to detect, we basically, our customer is building a form factor of a pendant. You give it to an elderly person or a child or somebody who requires the safety, and runs on one battery for 6 months, 3 to 6 months, and able to detect event of fall, asthma attack, some of the health meters applications. So we are actually getting into all kind of form factor for this application, personal safety and monitoring device. There's some industrial and other applications also that we are working on, but this is one of the one that will come out.
Shreyas.
Yeah, so for Innatera, we are bringing intelligence to sensors. So we are connecting to a large number of sensors, typically sensors which require real-time continuous monitoring, continuous data collection, and we're bringing intelligence to that part of edge AI. For us, all these sensors and the use cases that we are seeing are very, very interesting. The ones that are really standing out at the moment are, say, radar-based applications. So we've been working with 60 gigahertz consumer-based radars, and the kind of applications that people are now imagining using, integrating some of our solutions with the radars are phenomenal. Right from simple tasks as presence detection to in-cabin monitoring, child presence detection in car. You have smart doorbells which are now using radar sensors, but the radar sensors today are just used as motion sensors. But with intelligence now, they can actually, at a very, very high accuracy, detect whether it's a human present, whether it can distinguish between a human and a pet or a child. One very interesting use case that came to us was where they wanted to distinguish between pets and humans for elevator use, so that the elevator doors are not open when pets are there. So all kind of applications are coming. It's for consumers to imagine once they start to see the powerful AI capabilities we are able to deploy with large number of sensors.
Got it. Kurt.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I actually, this is one of my favorite questions, because I believe that edge AI, to really be successful, needs to be transparent. Yeah. Edge AI should be something that is in the device and just makes it better. And my favorite and most interesting one, at least for me, is that we're all getting older, and all of us, our hearing is going to be getting worse and worse. There's nothing we really can do about it. And if we're in this kind of environment, there's a problem in the hearing aid business that they call the cocktail party problem, which is the holy grail of hearing aids.
Yep.
And it's very, very hard to solve this problem. And if we were in a room like this with the hearing aids, it would start ringing. And when you're in a group session, people with hearing aids, it's very uncomfortable for them. So they start avoiding these things. They start avoiding things like trade shows. They probably don't go to a lot of trade shows. They avoid things like family get-togethers. And as soon as you start avoiding family get-togethers, you're avoiding interaction with your loved ones, and then that starts accelerating dementia. So the ability to filter out noise and be able to allow people that have hearing impairment to interact with the real world, I think is a very interesting application. Just a few months ago, one of the 5 largest hearing aid manufacturers started shipping a product using Syntiant's technology, and it is hands down the most advanced hearing aid in the world, and it completely eliminates this problem. So we're very excited to see this as a way of helping people, and not only helping our loved ones that are getting older, but also we're getting older too. As you said, there's so many years of experience. We're going to be needing hearing aids just right around the corner. So it's not just to help them, but to help us. And I think this is really the power of Edge AI, is that when we can put advanced processing into devices that you don't even know is there, but you can make people's lives just a little bit better.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I love Kurt's use case because it'll help benefit so many people with the advances in hearing aids. So I've got a couple of interesting ones here. One is I'm a satellite out in space, and I've got all the space junk. And we've got a use case where one of our customers has a camera staring out in space, and it can detect space junk and automatically maneuver the satellite out of the way so it doesn't get hit and destroyed. And it's completely transparent because by the time that you ship the image down to the ground station to calculate it, the satellite's already been wiped out. So it's kind of gone. But probably the most interesting use case that we see is along the same lines of this medical is we have a partner, Onsor Technologies, which has developed a set of smart glasses with our chips in it that measures your brain waves and can detect the onset of an epilepsy seizure up to an hour in advance. And prior to that, the only thing that you could do is detect, I have a seizure, I need my medication. In this case, somebody with epilepsy can swim, they can drive, they can do a lot of natural things that they couldn't before because they never knew when they were going to have an onset of this. And it really improves the quality of life for those with epilepsy.
I love the human aspect of all this and the reality. We talk about use cases as something out there, but the reality is it changes lives. But there's an underlying concern around privacy and security. So I'll start with you, Steve. And as you think through the areas of privacy and security, how do you handle that? And what are some of the compelling concerns outside of just private information?
Well, I think privacy is a big issue in AI right now. It was always an issue that, people were tracking your internet searches and they're getting your medical data. Yep. But with the advance of LLMs, they're able to basically keep a running dialogue of all your thoughts and all your questions that you have. And, you don't know what's happening with that data. So we're going to see even these advanced LLM models being pushed to the edge by the fact that companies might not want a cloud provider to have their employees information about what they're doing within their enterprise doing it. So you're going to see companies invest in their own private LLMs just so that they can preserve the business secrets that they use and still be able to apply LLMs in their operations.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, so I know not to be a kind of a downer, but I sort of feel that privacy is a losing battle. I think the best approach to privacy today is that it's really like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill. Is that everything we do is an assault on privacy. I often think back about what my dad told me when I was growing up is don't do anything that you would be ashamed if it showed up on the front of the paper. And I think that's the best way to avoid privacy is it's like, okay, I'm just giving up. But let's double click into Edge AI. Is that I actually think Edge AI is one of the best advances in privacy. Is that I'll use the example of a license plate number detector. Today, without Edge AI, if you want to detect a license plate, you put a camera on a intersection and you send every license plate to the cloud. So the government entity has a record of every single license plate that went through that intersection. That, to me, is an invasion of privacy. But if you're detecting just the license plate for the bad guy that you're trying to go after, what you can do is put the Edge AI in the camera, and then all you do is you tell the data center, look, I found it. And that basically solves, it's a lot lower power, but it definitely increases the privacy because you're only sending the data to the cloud that you absolutely have to have.
Thank you, Shreyas.
Yeah, so from a privacy and security perspective, I think Edge AI by default is a movement towards the right direction. Largely today's brute force AI is moving all the data that is collected around us goes into the data center, where you're not really in control of what the data is being used for. So Edge AI by default is actually a step in the right direction. With Edge AI, you are now having more processing and more intelligence being gathered closer to the place where it's captured, and from Innatera's perspective, it's happening at the sensor itself. So at the sensor itself, on device, you gather intelligence, and you only push out the information that is extracted from that sensor. So in that sense, it's the right step forward. From a use case perspective, we've been, like I mentioned, about using radars for presence detection. One of the use cases we've come across is using radar to do fall detection. And now radar, unlike a CMOS sensor, is quite private. And if you're able to do a radar-based fall detection, you can now potentially put that device in an old age home in the bathroom where you can now very privately actually detect a person who has fallen down and raise an alarm. So a lot of these things are happening now with Edge AI, and they're getting possible because of the advances in Edge AI.
Understand. TP.
So I will actually extend from what Kurt said. If you look at we are a company at the end of the day, means we are selling our stuff, and if privacy and security becomes a problem, then it's a problem. If you look at today's world, from consumer point of view or people's point of view, that privacy and security, you give $5 discount, that people are willing to waive that off. So that's as much from when it comes to consumer world. Now, of course, in industrial, it is far more severe problem. And what, as everybody said here, Edge AI actually attacks surface being much smaller than the alternative that you have where every data is being sent. And unfortunately, through wireless to cloud, attack surface is much bigger. The problem is much bigger. So on-device, Edge AI is actually moving in the right direction, taking things in the right direction. People are now setting up their personal data centers on the floor to do their analysis also. This is all part of that same movement. So I think on-device Edge AI in general is the right direction to begin with.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, I think I'm going to expand on what's already been said. Privacy is a concern. We've got devices out there on our person or in our immediate environment, right, that have always-on sensing of some type, whether that be a microphone, camera, biometric sensor, environmental monitor. And these devices have the capability to send private information to the cloud. And this is where, as we're talking about, Edge AI really comes in. Not necessarily, a performance enabler, but also really a privacy-preserving technology, right? So the more processing you can do on device of all this sensor data, the less you'd have to send to the cloud, and that just helps to preserve privacy, the information. And to do this, it's really from a hardware chip perspective, right? You've got to be able to do highly efficient processing at low power, so that way you're only sending events or alerts when you need to. And this is something that, at EMAS with our X.dot chip that we're doing. So it's really, Edge AI is, an enabler, right, to help with privacy.
Thank you. So I'm going to bring together two recurring questions since we're at Sensors Converge. And this is more of a forward-thinking question. Will AI be integrated into sensors? And why do you believe yes or no? I'll start with Scott.
So we don't see AI processing being integrated into sensors, or at least directly into sensor die. Integration is really going to be happening at a module level, where you're combining a sensor, multiple sensors, those data streams together, and you've got AI processing very close. So you still have the low latency, the low bandwidth, without sort of all the overhead of putting that into a sensor die. I'll also argue that having AI processing alongside sensors or a sensor or sensors makes more sense, just because we're talking about sensor fusion, combining multiple streams of data together to make more context-aware decisions, and I think that really happens off the sensor. So I think module level is sort of the right sweet spot for having AI processing, combining multiple sensor inputs and making context-aware decisions.
Thanks. GP?
So from my point of view, Michael, the integration of AI and sensor is inevitable over time. It is going to happen. Now, who will do that? Will the sensor guys be integrating AI, means AI compute into their die or their package or their module, or it will be the compute guy taking a sensor and integrating it into a module, or it will be the customer of the compute chip and the sensor that will be integrating it together. That's a lot into business questions. My prediction is the sensor guys, they seem to be, at least for today, they seem to be less motivated, mostly because of lack of expertise rather than anything else, to integrate the compute into those sensors. They all want to do it because all of them, especially sensor guys, the margins are low, so they're not very cash rich. They don't want to put money into R&D. The company that the module builders, they will do something only when a customer is going to ask for it. And who will that customer be? Well, a chip guy or the sensor guy has to go get the customer. So it's kind of a very business-wise, a very convoluted equation. So how and when it will happen is still evolving, but it will definitely happen.
Got it. Shreyas?
So from my perspective as well, I concur with GP that AI and sensor AI would definitely happen, and it's actually happening now. At the moment, like my panelists before me said, it's happening nearer the sensor. So AI is coming closer to the sensor, but potentially in modules. I also foresee a single package dies if the technology allows that. So that is probably the next step towards this integrating of AI and sensors.
Card?
Yeah. So actually having an AI and a sensor business, we look at this all the time, and I think that our belief is that at time equals infinity, all sensors are connected to an AI engine. And that time might not be infinity; it might be like next month. So it's very quick, and there are a couple of hurdles to integrate AI with sensors. Is that AI is largely a memory problem, and that actually pushes you into advanced nodes. And sensors are largely an A to D problem, which generally you're in trailing nodes. So there is some silicon incompatibility, if you will, between sensors and AI. But I think it is inevitable that they will get closer, probably into a module first and then more and more integrated into the ASICs. But, without a doubt, the sensor will be connected to an AI engine. And again, just probably, next week.
That fast.
Well, I want to echo what Kurt said. I think as a company that licenses IP for integration into other people's chips, we face this question as well. And to Kurt's point, if I'm in a MEMS manufacturer and I'm in 90 nanometer or 140 nanometer, it doesn't really make sense to put an AI/ML module there because I'm going to pay a huge penalty in power and cost. So do I want to double the cost of my sensor by adding AI to it? And the answer typically is no. It'd be easier to put a chip next to it. Like maybe I could even put a small digital chip or an analog AI chip inside the same package as another die that is the actual sensor die. The other reason is attach rate. If I look at, I'm a sensor manufacturer and I'm selling hundreds of millions of sensors, what percentage of those chips are going to have AI-enabled use cases? And the answer right now is less than 10% of those are using AI/ML. So I don't want to integrate any accelerator for AI when only 10% of my products will get the benefit of it. So the question is when will the penetration rate of AI/ML into these sensors increase to a significant number? When I say significant, it's 50 to 70%. When I was in the SoC business, we would use an external chip for a feature until almost all the products use that feature, and then we'd go onto the SoC itself.
Got it. All right, so now let's become a bit of a visionary, which you all are, leading companies and growing companies. So to round this panel out, what does the next 5 years look like for Edge AI? And I'll start with Steve.
Well, if you look at your smartphone, you've already got it in there now, right? So if we look at devices that use sensors, probably the most popular platform is your mobile phone. It might have a dozen sensors in it, right? So from that perspective, the attach rate for AI/ML is high, but that AI/ML is hidden in the main SoC of the chip. Most other use cases for sensors doesn't have that. Typically, they'll use a microcontroller. So then you look at what's the penetration of AI/ML into the microcontroller business. And right now, I think it's estimated about 15%. That's according to some market research reports. And a lot of that is just firmware. We're writing software on the microcontroller to do low-level AI/ML. But as use cases demand more performance, we'll put hardware acceleration in those. And then that should, we think that the penetration of AI/ML in the microcontroller business will go from 15% to over 50% over the next 5 years, even though market research firms are saying, well, it'll be about 30%. So we think it'll probably be twice as fast as some of the current market research.
Interesting. Kurt?
Yeah, so you asked a 5-year question, and in the chip business, 5 years is really only 2 generations, so it's not that far away. In fact, it's things that are already on your roadmap, and you should already have your plans for 5 years. And our view is that there was a lot of COVID introduced, I think, a slowdown in adoption of Edge AI. We went for a couple of years where people were just designing for supply chain, and what we've seen for the last couple of years is that they're designing new platforms. And new platforms give the opportunity for Edge AI to go into those platforms. And I'd say almost universally, everyone designing a new product today wants to have AI in it somehow. Most don't know how, but some have some good ideas, and more will have good ideas. So I actually think we'll kind of wake up, 5 years from now and say, just as everything has a microcontroller in it today, as if it's like even greeting cards have microcontrollers today. 5 years from now, we'll say every new product has some kind of AI in it, and maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 80%, but I think that we will see AI. If you're actually in the know, if we do this right, no one will know that there's AI in these things. They'll just say, "Wow, this product's a lot better than the old one." That's what we want. Because it doesn't need to be AI, it just needs to be better.
Got it. Shreyas?
So very interesting ideas here, and the way we look at it from a future perspective is we imagining a world where what we call is ambient intelligence. Today, the way we interact with machines, the environment around us is pretty responsive to the inputs we give. So we click a button, we touch a screen, or we give a command. We imagine a world where the devices around us are more intelligent, and what we call ambient intelligence, where the devices are now actually transparent to you, and they are reacting to your needs without you actually having to push a button or ask for something. And this phenomena will come when everything around us has AI intelligence built in. The sensors around us have intelligence built in, and then fundamentally you can have an environment which is ambiently intelligent, which responds to your need without you telling them that you want them to respond. So like the panelists said here, it's transparent, but it's happening around us and giving us the better life that we're looking forwards to.
Got it. Thank you.
So if you allow me, I will take this horizon to 10 years, if you don't mind.
I think Kurt would disagree with you on the 5 to 10 years, but go ahead.
Even when we started as a company, in one of the interview, actually, I had said that very soon, soon being 15 years horizon, we will see AI becomes part of every electronics that will be built within 15 years. You see that happening right now. It wasn't obvious at that time. Now, because we as a company are building a roadmap, means multiple chips, one being in a small on-device to edge, which is vision and high-performance vision, and also going to small servers, we do see that two things happening. AI is becoming part of every compute. The second, miniaturization is happening exactly the same way as the computers went in old time, very large room full of one computer occupying the entire room, that is IBM 360, down to whatever that computer did, now your laptop is doing that. Same thing would happen over time. In next 10 years horizon, I think, is where whatever your large server is doing, your edge, a small server will be able to do. Whatever a small server is doing, your laptop will be able to do. What your laptop is doing today, a small form factor, a ring or your band or a watch will be able to do. So this is happening. We see this happening. And I think in next 10 years, you will see this both miniaturization and ubiquitous nature of AI, where you would not even know that it has an AI. I agree with Craig. It will just be there.
Go ahead, Scott.
I think what we're all saying here is that, edge AI is moving from more of a feature in devices to it's going to be standard in devices, whether that be your wearable, an industrial sensor, or even drones. And I think we see a few trends that are going to continue to make this happen. One being ultra low power. We've got to be able to do, processing on chip, on device, without killing batteries. I think another trend we're going to be seeing is multi-sensor fusion. I've already talked about this, but not just, okay, I hear something, I'm going to take an action, or I see something, I'm going to take an action, but blending multiple sensors together and making more context-aware decisions. And finally, privacy, going back to that. We talked about that already, but I think that's another trend that's really going to help to propel edge AI is, making sure that we're designing that into chips to be able to do that processing on device and not send as much data to the cloud. And that's, really kind of, with SoCs like we have at EMAS, BXDOT, operating already today at, less than a milliwatt of power, and having real-time inference and sensor fusion on chip. We're helping to enable this, and all this. The more you can put on chip, the more applications you can enable. I think that's another big key, right? Is we talked about here. Okay, what are the applications for edge AI? And I think the more you can do on chip, the more you can enable people think about the applications they can do in their devices.
So I'm going to just do a pause because I'm going to give you all a chance to land one more point or to contextualize one more thing before we close. But from the audience and those that are here participating, again, thank you. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask that I'd be happy to repeat for the panel here?
ways you guys are integrating AI to your business?
What are other ways that you're integrating AI into your business? We'll start with Steve.
Well, I think we're doing what a lot of other companies are. We're integrating AI into our design process. So we're accelerating the design of our own chips using AI, either from software programming to chip planning to analysis. Even on the marketing side, when we look at market research, we're getting a lot more information using AI a lot quicker. Instead of doing an annual business plan or a quarterly business plan, we're looking at every couple of weeks refreshing our business plans with AI to look at the trends, because the market is moving so quickly, we can't write an annual business plan anymore. It doesn't really even work. So,
Thank you. Kurt?
Yeah, so we're but both we supply sensors, we have factories, we have our processors, we have our software, and we have just in the last several months started applying our software and computer vision actually to our own manufacturing. So we are we're basically, as we say, we're eating our own dog food here. So we're using our own AI technology to increase margins, increase yields on our own devices. And I think that is a really nice way of us showing that you can start putting AI into traditional type of techniques and getting better results.
Thanks. Shreyas?
Yeah, so for us as well, as Steve mentioned, we are integrating AI in the design process, the development process, in operations side, in marketing side. So utilizing more and more tools that help us in our day-to-day running of the business, and also the development of new technology where we're using AI now.
JP?
So I'll just echo whatever everybody has said. AI, not just for us, pretty much every business is getting incorporated into design, administration, monitoring, reporting, planning. All these aspects are getting one or the other form of AI happening right now. It doesn't apply just to us, pretty much to everybody right now in the industry. So it's a very generic question, actually.
Scott?
Yeah, no, I think we're definitely using AI in our business, but we're also thinking about how other businesses want to use AI, right? And so part of this, we go back to talking about edge AI and how you can make it more seamless for people to take what they're doing in sort of applications and translate that into edge AI devices. We've designed our SDK where it can translate models, optimize them for SOC, and also if you don't have a model and you've got an idea, we can also, through our software, help you develop a model and get that optimized for our SOC.
Thank you. I don't see, we only have a few more minutes. Other questions? Go ahead, sir.
So you like sensor AI?
Can you repeat it a little louder? Oh. I got it. I got it. Wow. What's your vision for standards for AI? That's a tough one. Anyone want to take a crack at it?
I'll take at it. First of all, lack of a standard is making a lot of money for some people.
That's right.
And very little for the ones who are trying to get there. So the ones who are making a lot of money are not going to let the standards happen very easily. So first news is that. That means it's going to get delayed. Standards will eventually emerge. Difficult to say when. We are all struggling with the same question. We go to a customer says, can you show me benchmark data? And answer is, okay, if you can give the benchmark, I can show the data. So standardization will happen. There's no motivation for the people who have the money to do it. And that is a problem.
Anyone else want to take a crack at that? We only have a couple of minutes.
So I can answer this as from a slightly different angle, which is I do believe that standardization should happen at a software level, because what you really want as end device makers is interoperative adaptability of the devices, and then you need a freedom to choose a solution that you want to deploy in your use case. And that will only happen when you have some level of standardization at a software level. Largely in the past few decades, compute was run on CPUs, which were pretty much standardized on the instruction set boundary. AI, with AI acceleration being built on chips, is pretty fragmented at the moment. And that's why what happens is it's not easy to replace the device that you have in your whatever you've selected. So there might be a standardization happening at that software level.
We can have one more weigh in.
I think the standards has been mainly around the frameworks so that people can ingest models. And we've seen Keras and TensorFlow and TensorFlow Lite being kind of the only standards somewhat in the AI business. And I think you're going to see that migrate to new frameworks that can handle a wider range of models. We're seeing Onyx, TensorFlow being, what happened was Google quit putting their weight behind TensorFlow, and that's diminished it as a primary standard. And you're seeing that usurped by Onyx and PyTorch and the like. And on the benchmarking side, ML Commons, if you go to mlcommons.org, they've tried to standardize the benchmarking so that you can do apples to apples comparisons. And that's only possible if you have a standard framework to import these models.
So we've run out of time. I'll give you each 5 seconds to say your final point. Steve, we'll go with you.
AI is going to be in every one of your devices that you buy in the future, and hopefully it's going to be one of ours.
Bert?
I thought that was. I'll say the same thing. Yeah, you beat me to it, but thank you. And I actually just think I'm very positive is that I think Edge AI is going to be making the world a better place.
Shreyas?
Yeah, so from my perspective, it's the ambient intelligent environment that I'm envisioning that gets enabled using Edge AI.
CP?
I think Edge AI market share will keep increasing. So if you are doing Edge AI or sensor-based Edge AI, you're in a good spot.
Scott?
Yeah, I think Edge AI is at a very exciting time. I mean, there's so many applications that can be enabled in many different types of devices and environments, and just having SoCs that can do that at highly efficient, ultra low power. I mean, that's where we can help enable this even more.
So I want to close with personal thanks, not only for your time, but for your expertise and your insights. I learned more than I can consume, and I'm sure that applies for all of us as we spend time here. We're over at the Edge AI Pavilion, so if you want to spend more time with our panelists here, please join us over there, and thank you for being here today. Have a great day. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.